I'm going to make an entire jump up drum and bass track from scratch, and hopefully you'll be able to see step by step what I do to create and finish music. So save it somewhere and come back to it whenever you need to. Also, I'm going to be using entirely samples from my website, particularly the JUMP UP DNB sample pack, or samples from Splice. Then we're going to be using the plugin Serum. I might also use some additional post-processing plugins, but I'll do my best to just use the most basic ones when I can. If you could just take a moment to hit that like button, it'll be much appreciated. Also, I'll put a small preview here from the finished track, just so you can hear what it sounds like. There'll be a full preview at the end of the video. It's up to you whether you want to start with a intro or a drop. A lot of the time I will start with my drops and I'll just make loads of drops and then go with whatever sounds best. And then other times I might make an intro first. And one really important thing to note is if you've got a drop and it sounds good, save that drop in a separate file somewhere, because when you make an intro, it might not sound good and you might have to change things, and then you can come back to that other drop later on. So with Jump Up, there's actually a lot of complex intros that can be made. So the main ones are effects and dark sounding atmospheres to build tension and then have a heavy drop come in. And then you can also have more melodic styles, so pads, respacers, plucks, arps, things like that. And then in terms of drums, you can have intros that have no drums at all in, and then the drums gradually come in with the build up and then all come in with the drop. Or you can have drums from the start. Now I'd say it's easier to make tunes if you have drums coming in right from the start. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to make drums right from the start and then come through into the drop, just because that's the most simple way and that's probably what you'll find the most success in. Another way to make a simple intro is to just use a short atmospheric intro and then a heavy drop, maybe 16 bars later. So I suggest you either start with drums straight away or some sort of atmospheric intro if you're slightly newish to producing or if you're not really sure where to begin. So let's start with the drums. One other thing to note is I have done a little bit of pre-planning because a lot of producing is just trial and error. Otherwise you'd see me here for hours and hours just trying out loads of different things until something works. And I don't want the focus to be on trial and error. Just know that there will be a lot of trial and error for you. So don't be like, why is he getting it in one go when I've already done a little preparation for this? So let's start by grabbing a kick drum. And I'm just going to use the jump up pack for this. And we're just going to grab kick number 1. So we're going to drag in kick number 1 into our kick slot. Also, if you haven't got this project template, it's available on my website in the add-ons section. There's also an Ableton template as well. And so we've added the kick drum and then we're going to select the first 4 bars and we're on bar mode and we're just going to duplicate the kick drum onto every bar, copy these across to here and then drag them half a beat across to get that drum and bass style sound. Then we're going to adjust the level of this so that on the master it's coming in at -15 or around -15. So that's perfectly fine. And then let's now bring in a snare. So these are just going to be placeholders for now. The drums might change later on depending on what kind of basses we put in and what kind of sub bass we have. So let's go with snare 6 and we'll just put it in our snare slot here. And then we'll just duplicate these across. So these are hitting every 2nd beat and 4th beat. And we need to adjust the volume on here again. If you're using Ableton, you can use a utility on this, by the way. So we want it to come just a bit quieter than the kick drum, and then just use our ears. So that sounds pretty good to me. Now let's find some hi-hats. Let's go into Chaos Collection and get a hi-hat loop, number 13. And then we're just going to adjust the BPM accordingly. My default BPM is at 174, as you can see here. I'm just going to bump it up to 176 just to match this. And I feel like 176 is quite a nice BPM for Jump Up. And I'm just adjusting the time on here to 176, just in case I change the BPM later, then this will change automatically. And then let's do the same again and bring this volume right down. As you can see here, super quiet. And I don't want that hi-hat sound here, so I'm going to get rid of that. And just have it like this. Because we can add in our own hi-hat later on. Yeah, that sounds a bit better. So So now let's actually add that hi-hat in, and we'll go back to the jump up pack, and let's go with hat number 28. And let's drag this in hat number 2 slot here. So that's very loud right now, so let's bring that down. It can be a little bit louder than these hi-hat elements in the background. And then let's adjust this slightly. So for example, we can make it shorter like this. What I'm really going for with these drums, I want to make them like light and fluffy, whilst also having impact at the same time. And you'll see I haven't really done any post-processing yet, because the sample selection is high enough quality to not really require that. But maybe for this one, I'll just have a look at the EQing side. See if I can just dull down any of it a little bit. And then I've also got this drum reverb channel here, which is automatically set up on reverb 2. So maybe we can add some reverb to this as well. Turn it down a little bit. Something like that. It's quite nice. Now let's add a percussion loop as well. I'm not sure where I'm going to add this yet. I know it's going to be on the drop, but I might bring it in later on in the intro. So because of that, let's just extend this, and we're going to work in between 8 to 16 bar phrases. So let's make this 16 bars, like this. You'll note 16 bars because 16 is at the top here. And let's add in the percussion. So for this one, we're going to go to percussion loops and chaos, and let's go with percussion loop 14. And we'll just put that in the percussion tab, and then we'll just change it to 178 BPM here. And we'll just turn it right down again. Yeah, that just adding even more to it. So what we'll do for now is we'll put this bit in the next 16 bars, and then we'll duplicate it all again. And then we've essentially got the first 32 bars of our track here. So we've got the first 16 bars, and then the next 16 bars progressed with some percussion underneath it. Now, let's just do some further post-processing on the drums. So I'm going to use Saturn 2 now. Now this is like a saturation / distortion type plugin. So if you don't have Saturn 2, but you've got other saturation plugins, try them out. It's just a very light drive on the drums. So you can change it here. All I do is use the default one and then change it here. It's just very lightly affecting the drums. Next, I'm going to add a Pro L. So this is just a limiter. Feel free to use the Fruity limiter or Ableton limiter, but if you've got Pro L, then use that one. And then this is just to change the gain on it. So if we need the drums to be louder later on, we can just boost them up like this. So let's boost them up a little bit for now, because we were super quiet on the mixdown. Maybe 2 or something. You can still see it's coming really low on the mixdown, like between -9 and -12. So we've got loads of headroom to work with. And those drums are sounding quite nice. So now, because we already have the drums rolling through this track, it actually makes it a lot more simple to make like a build-up from these. So let's look at doing a build-up now. But before we go any further, I'm going to change the structure slightly. So currently we're working in 16 bar phrases, and this has been popular for a long time in drum and bass. But more and more recently, as people's attention span gets shorter, tracks are actually becoming shorter and shorter. So these kind of long intros aren't as popular anymore. Now, obviously, if you're making a track just for DJing, then you might want to stick with 16 bar phrases because it's easier to mix. But for the purposes of this video, I'm imagining you're just creating it to release as a track on Spotify, for example. Let's go with the shorter style and work in 8 bar phrases. So what we're essentially going to do is have intro, intro, build up, and then the drop here onwards, instead of having intro, intro, build up, and then the drop after 16 more bars. So this is going to be really simple to do. I'm just going to move this back one. And what we're going to do is come to this part here where the drop's going to be, and we're just going to add a marker just so it's easier for you to see. And we're going to call it drop 1. And we're going to come back here and add another one, intro. And then we're going to call this bit here build up. Now just looking at this, you'll notice there's a reference track slot here. Now normally what I do is I'll always put a reference track slot in this position here. But because this is a YouTube video and copyright issues and all that, I can't today, unfortunately. So if you haven't already, make sure to get some reference tracks in. But you're also watching this video now, so I could be your reference track as well. So let's delete that for now because we don't need it. But if you want to add a track in there, feel free. So now let's go to the build-up part. And there's lots of ways to do this. And I've actually made a bunch of build-up elements that we can use in the Jump Up sample pack. But let's just work on the kick drum first. So we can highlight this top section here by holding Control and drag. And then we just want to delete everything in this bar just before the drop because we're going to use this for pre-drop. What we can do here is start to work with this kick drum. So one way to do this is you could work backwards. So I could start here and make something that looks like this. Get rid of that. So you see how this is one bar here. We want the same amount of kick drums here in double the amount of time. So to do this, we can just get our kick drum, put it on step mode and have one coming in every time like this. And we can just duplicate these across. So basically if we were going the other way, you'd keep halving it. So you'd halve the amount of time but keep the amount of kick drums the same. So for this section, it can get a little bit more complicated because we've got the snare drum hitting on the second beat and the fourth beat. So it can make it become a bit rigid if you just have it like this. So we could try a pattern instead to give it more bounce. So we're just going to experiment with some sounds here. Maybe we could add another one in here. Something like that sounds pretty cool. And then we want to grab this kick drum here. So I'm just going to put it on bar mode again. And let's just select this section here. And then we'll go back onto the kick drum and add an EQ. And then we're going to go onto this section here, add a high pass filter. Just leave it as it is and then drag it all the way to the left. Now we can make it a little bit steeper by putting it into steep 4 here. And then if we just drag it all the way like this, it shouldn't really affect the sound. But if you're worried about that, you can just drag this number 2 like this. And then what we're going to do is slowly automate this to move like this as the kick drum progresses. And this will just add a nice little effect. Adding automation like this is the key to getting your track to sound more professional. So let's do this now. So we'll do like maybe a slight amount here. Let's drag it up here. And then we can do something like this. And of course we can have a little play around with it later on. So you see how there's a little bit here. Let's just do that like that, just to make sure we don't get any weird sounds in the mix. So let's leave it like that for now, and then we can come back to it when the rest of the elements are in. So I've done the kick drum. Now let's see what loops we can use from the pack. So let's go to fills, build up, and then so I've got this one here that says automate like crazy. So let's drag this in, and we're going to drag this in to snare position 2. and then just adjust the BPM. By the way, if it doesn't come up here saying 174, you can just type in the BPM 174 and then resample it to generic mode. So that again, let's turn this right down. One thing I also forgot to do earlier is to put these in stereo mode, the hi-hats. And to do this, we can just get this thing called stereo enhancer, and it just allows us to move these so they're a bit wider. And you can also pan them here, but let's not do that. So we can do that with this one. If we come up here and drag the save preset here to hat 2, it puts it on this one as well, so we can make this one wide as well. Let's come back to this build up now, and let's drag this here. And one thing I do here is I turn this off here just to stop any clicking sound that could happen. And then again, let's automate it with some. This time we're going to use one of my favorite plugins, Fruity Love Filter. And then we'll just turn this res right down to stop any harsh frequencies. And then we'll turn this cutoff down and automate it. Right click, create automation clip. And we can create this really cool effect now. Nice in the background style. So we can come back and add more elements later on, but I'm happy with how this is sounding for now. So we'll leave the drums as they are. We don't really need to do that much because we're going to have to add more things, change some things up later on, depending on how the tune progresses. Right, now let's have a look at adding some basses. So let's start with Serum, and we're just going to go into the Jump Up pack, and I'm going to grab a sub bass. So we're going to go with this one to begin with, and then we can change it up later on if we need to. Now I'm just going to go to my sub channel, so sub 28, and then I'm just going to draw in a sub. We're going to use D sharp as my key, so D sharp minor. Let's just draw it in here, so let's just do 1 bar. So let's add some sidechain. So I'm going to use kickstart 2. So we'll just remove the limiter because we're not going to use that type of sidechain, and I'm going to put it in channel 9 just in case we need a limiter in channel 10. Kickstart 2, and then the kick group should already be sidechained to the sub. So all we need to do is change this to audio, go into the settings, go into the processing tab, and change the sidechain 1 to the kick group. Now it should be sidechained. Now, one problem you might have with Kickstart 2 is it sometimes doesn't detect the sidechain because we're mixing so low. It says here, ensure that the kick drum level is not too low. So if that happens, it's happening here, then I might just have to boost the level of the kick drum. So we're just going to go on to the kick channel here, and I'm going to turn it up until it detects it. So let's just see where this kick drum's gone up to now. Let's see if we can get it down to 9. Yeah, so that's fine. So we can just increase all the other elements just a little bit. And that should be fine. So let's now have a look at the sub bass where it's coming in. So first thing I'm going to do is add a limiter here just for control, because we might need that later on. And then one little trick I like to do is I like to boost these levels. So if we boost it all the way up, and then if we turn it down on the bass bus level, so it's just quieter than the drum bus. So let's just increase this a bit more. Something like that. So it's coming on the master. So -3 to -6. That's okay. We haven't actually added any parallel compression and parallel distortion, but we'll do that later on in the last mixdown stage. So we've got a sub bass now. Now let's add some basses. Also, I don't normally change all these until later, like color code them, just because when I'm producing, I want to be like in the flow of producing, and stopping to change all the color on these can sometimes take you out of that flow state. So I want to get a stab bass for the first one. So we're going to go through some of these stabs. I'm going to put this on channel 21 here, which is the first bass, and then let's just whack it on D like that. And let's put another kickstart 2 on here, audio, processing, kick group, and then make sure to turn it up like that and just delete the initial value, right click, delete initial value. Just make sure it's working. Now let's just cycle through some of these. I quite like that one. So let's do a little bit of post-processing, see what we can come up with. So let's add some OTT to begin with. So we've got the bass bus on a little bit, so let's turn that reverb right down. So that sounds pretty cool for now. Let's see if we can add some satin as well and just scroll through some of the presets. Not really feeling any of them for now, so we'll come back to that later. And now let's add another serum patch. So I want to go for like a wobble style bass for the second one for this track. So we'll keep it in this section. Let's go back to the jump up presets and let's go to the wobble section. So I had my eyes on this one earlier. So if you want to copy the first bass, it looks like this. I had my eye on this for the second bass. So it's like a really cool wobble style. Might be turn that reverb off. Put my own on later on. So we'll have this coming in for the first beat and then this playing in the same note afterwards. So the sub bass can just copy it like this. And then we can also test other sub bass ideas out. Yeah, I think the first one's the best for this. We're going to go with the ABAC style. So this bit is going to copy this bit, and then this bit is going to copy this bit varied. So let's get one more bass in. So let's look at maybe a filler bass. And we'll put this in 23. We'll move this one to 22 as well. So we'll just delete this and add the kickstart again. So you know the process by now. Click audio, come to processing, sidechain, kick group. And let's add that OTT back in because it sounds pretty cool on it. And let's add a Pro L because I can see it's clipping slightly. And then let's do the same to bass 3. We'll add in kickstart 2. Turn this off, turn that off. Do the same again, audio, processing, kick group. A couple of these basses might be placeholders for now, so we can come back to them later and change them up. We just want to get the initial idea down. So let's just duplicate these across here to part 3 section. And the sub bass, we might want to just extend this here. So it's covering the whole thing. So this is the initial idea down, which I got together earlier when I was testing some basses. So I haven't just figured this out right on the spot. I did some trial and error earlier, which took like an hour or so. And then let's do the B section. So we want to do another bass here. And then add in the bass again, but maybe a bit shorter this time. And then we can maybe add this in here. Like that. And then add this bass, the sub bass to follow it. So let's listen to that. And then maybe leave this bit blank for now and maybe add a new bass when we decide what kind of transition we want after hearing it all with the intro as well. Now let's look at the intro. So because we've already got the drums going, I'm going to look for some dark style atmospheres. So let's start off with an Atmos. So we'll just go into effects, Atmos, and then we'll pick one of these. So let's go with this Atmos effect, and I'm going to put it in instruments just because it's got a bit of a tone to it. So let's then adjust this to 176. There we go. And then let's see if we need to turn it down slightly. So let's play around with this now. So firstly, as you can see, it's in F. So we need to move it into D sharp so it matches the key of the drop. So what we can do is, you see F here, and then E, and then D sharp. So it's going down 2 semitones. Then we just adjust this to minus 200 cents. You can see in the top left there, it shows the cents. Now, when we press play, it should be in D sharp. Now what we're going to do is duplicate this. Then I'm going to come into the corner here, click it, and make unique. And now we've got a separate sample to this one, and we can change the pitch here. So for example, like that. And we can create a little melody with this. So let's move this along a bit. And then let's change this. Bah, bah. There we go, yeah, so that sounds cool. And then we'll just duplicate it for the second half of the intro. And then when the build-up comes in, we'll just use the F bit. And what we can do here is select this area. Let's change it to stretch mode, put the range up to 12, and then right click, create automation clip. And we can create a little riser with this instead. And then because there's a lot of low end in this, we're going to add an EQ, and I'm going to add a high pass filter, and then I'm going to automate this, just like we did with the kick drum earlier. And that just means there's less low end right before the drop hits, so when the drop hits there's more impact. And it's an additional automation, so it sounds like the track's moving as well. So we can just like leave these below here and then move them later on if we have more instruments. Let's now go on to Splice and look for some more elements to add in to bulk up this intro. So what I like to do is, just on like this number 65 here, I like to attach a Splice bridge, and then it'll connect. If you haven't got Splice bridge, you just download it in Tools, I think, yeah, here. And then when I play something now, it should be in sync with this. And also, so if I get the sample that I found, I can click play. I'll play with it. And I can also change the key of it to D sharp. And then if I want this sample, I can just drag it in here and then there, and then I can move it to here. So I'll put it in instrument 2 here. Let's turn this down. And then let's create like a little counter melody with this. So let's do the same before, make unique, and then we can just change it on here. This is a bit advanced doing it on here because my ears are like trained to know what's in key. So feel free to do it another way if you're not so familiar. So that sounds pretty cool. So you see I've not copied this, how it goes up, I'm going down instead, but it's staying in key to D sharp. Let's go down again. That's out of key. That's out of key as well. That's in key, so that sounds pretty cool. And then again, we can put this here and do some automation with it. And what I think I'll do is, so we'll just switch it to stretch mode. I think what I'll do here is I might automate it a little bit and then have it filtering out quickly, because I think this might sound a bit weird automated, but we'll see. Let's whack this in. Yeah, so let's have it phasing out faster. So we'll use a lub filter for this. And we'll just have it quickly coming down. Like that. Yes, that sounds pretty cool. Let's see if we can add some effects now. Really easy with effects. I just like to grab a load of good stuff. So let's start with some white noise first. So let's put this in. As you see, it's 174.9, so we'll just change that to 175. That's the BPM says there. Change it to E generic. Let's add in a bunch of stuff, why not? And we'll just take out the everything pre-drop. Again, we'll change this to a 175. Like that. This is in time, but we'll just change it anyway, just in case we change the BPM later on. This one's quite loud, so we'll turn this down. And now let's get in some sweeps, so some risers. So let's add this one in, change it to 174, and move this like this. Make sure they're super quiet in the background. Look how quiet they are on here. And then let's duplicate this. You hear how it's starting to sound more full now. So let's add some down filters as well. I really like this one, so we'll use this one here on 174. We don't really need an impact because there's no breakdown. It goes straight into the build-up. So let's try this one. Quite loud. This one works a bit better. We could blend the two, because one's got a little bit more transient on it than the other one, and the other one's got a bit more delay. So let's try that. Yeah, they work quite nice together actually. Yeah, so I quite like that. We can add some like one-shot effects later on, but let's just keep it like that for now. There was actually one more cool little effects I found on Splice. So this is quite cool. Let's have a look at this. So it was this sound here. That last bit in the sample. So let's grab that. So all I'm going to do that bit there. See if we can get more of it than that. Let's see what we can do with this if this goes in here. I think some of these are still quite loud, so we'll just do this first. Yeah, let's actually remove this one completely. I don't think we need that at all. It was a bit too much. And then what we can do actually with this is we can turn this into a riser as well. So you see how I'm trying to automate as many things as possible to keep it moving. So let's try it with this. Maybe not as aggressive as that. Yeah, so that sounds pretty cool. Now we need to find a vocal, and one way I really like to do this is through either just random samples on Splice. Now I found this really cool video.
You are the new student.
Now I found this really cool video. I just typed in like martial arts phrases or martial arts vocal or something like that, and then I scrolled through for a while until I found this video clip. Then I just go into Google and do YouTube to MP3, click here, and then I can copy this into here and convert it, and then download it by clicking here. And then I can literally just drag it in to my DAW. You might want to put it in a folder somewhere. I'm just gonna, when I save it later, I'll create a zip for it and then just extract it, and that'll put all the samples right back in the right place so you don't lose them later on. And then I'll just come through and dissect the bits I want.
You are the new student.
So I like that bit. So let's grab this, and then we'll do it at the end of each 8-bar section and add a little vocal in. And then we'll just have like the last end bit hitting around here, half a beat on the last one, like this here.
You are the new student.
And then we'll just cut it out here. So then I'll just listen through and grab different sections. So let's try this bit here.
Fear is the only darkness. Fear is the only darkness. Fear is the only darkness. Fear is the only darkness.
And then I thought this part was pretty cool for the drop, for the pre-drop. Listen to this.
Close your eyes. What do you hear?
And then we have what do you hear, and then it goes into the drop. And let's just keep it consistent with this background water sound. There we go. We can add some post-processing to it. Normally if I'm working quite quickly, I'll just cheat a bit and I'll just use this Waves Clar plugin. And I'll just go in here and find like this setting.
You are the new student.
Turn this down massively.
You are the new student. You are the new student.
So let's just look at these wavetables here and get them to be like similar size.
Fear is the,
And then
fear is the only darkness. Close your eyes. What do you hear? Close your eyes. What do you hear?
so now we've created an intro and it sounds pretty cool, pretty good for jump up drum and bass, and it all flows nicely together. Now we just need to get the drop right. So we did a little placeholding earlier. Now what I'm going to do, otherwise we'll be here for hours, is I'm going to work on it a bit, do a load of trial and error, and then I'll come back when I've done that and show you what I did. Okay, so we're back. So we're going to make some changes. I've done a lot of trial and error and I've come up with something that I think works better with the drums and with the sub bass and with the overall vibe of the track. So firstly, I'm just going to get rid of all the melody we've got at the moment. There we go. And then just get rid of everything apart from the first bass. Get rid of all this. We'll leave this bit in just in case. Now what I'm going to do is go for this womp style bass here. So it sounds like this. And we're going to put it on channel 1 and just turn it up a bit. And then I'm going to fiddle with this to give it some more oomph. And then let's create a melody. So I came up with this really cool melody idea and we're just going to go with it. The way I created the melody is I literally just listened to it on repeat and then experimented with different ideas. Now, normally what I would do is like use this in the top right and put it in D sharp minor, but this can affect your creativity a little bit when it's on the drop. Only when it's on the drop I normally turn this off and just go for freestyle. Let's put this down and then this down. And the sub's going to follow it. Something like this. Turn this off for now. Something like that. And then let's add in a new synth. So let's go to this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the flush wobble here. And I'm just going to turn this on envelope mode. And do the same for this as well. And then let's do something clever here. And put it here, and then move this across like this. Okay, I don't know why I turned the multiband on here. And then, oh, I did play around with this earlier, so just turn that off. And then let's do the same here. And we'll try and do something similar. So let's put this on 1/4 and drag it like this maybe. Maybe actually let's keep it 1/8. Quite aggressive sounding at the moment. Turn it down a notch. And then maybe let's do something here with this. Yeah, something like that's pretty cool. And maybe at the end of this one, do the same here. Yeah, like that. That bass here doesn't sound right at the moment, but I know I can get it right. So let's just try going back onto this mode. Maybe we can do something like this. Maybe make it flick as well. It's like distorting a little bit, which is a bit annoying. Trying to get rid of that distorting sound. Maybe if we just see if I can turn off the sub maybe. You see how I'm just like trying to change little parts of this to get it to sound better. That sounds a lot better. Maybe add a bit of reverb. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. And I've noticed the bass here is sometimes clipping a little bit, so let's just add a Pro L. Yeah, so something like that sounds good for now. We can tweak it more later on. And then remember how I mentioned A, B, A, C? Let's try and implement this here. And to do this, I always just do really small changes. So let's remove that. So what I'm going to do is bring this in. I've got a couple of ideas. So we could start by like duplicating this first bit. And then bring these across again. And maybe like do a little change up here. Don't know what yet, but let's just play it and then listen. That sounds a bit weird actually. Maybe just keep it on this last bit here. And then maybe could add like maybe something like that. We can come back and change this all later. I'm just doing it for now. And then this last section is normally when we have some sort of like switch up style. So let's just see.
What do you hear?
We could even add like a respace in here or something crazy. I've got a little idea in my head. I've got something playing in my head right now. Something like that. So let's find a respace. So let's add this in here. Bumper. could just add some post-processing to this as well. Try some decimal maybe. Might switch that up again later on, but again, it's just a placeholder for now. We could add like a mini transition here. We're only changing 8 bars here. So normally what I do is a mini transition, 8 bars, and then I'll do a bigger transition at the 32 bars. So let's just do like a mini kick drum transition. Maybe we could just grab this EQ filter and grab these and then just do a little fiddle about with these. So let's get rid of them. Oh, and make sure to do make unique like this. And maybe not that much, maybe like just this bit. Something like that. We can change that up later as well if we want. So now we've got an initial drop in, got a sort of intro in as well. And let's just have a quick listen back. So what I like to do as well is I like to look at the mix down, and I can see that the instruments are actually coming in really quiet. So whilst it might sound really good on my headphones right now, on like another device, the instruments might be like barely audible. One thing I also like to do is check the track in mono. That sounds pretty good in mono there. So let's just go back to these instruments and just turn them up a bit. Yeah, so something like this, a bit louder maybe. Make sure to turn them all up. And we'll turn this one up a little bit as well.
The new student. Fear is the only darkness.
So something like that's brought them levels up a little bit more. Now I've done that, I'm going to do the next part of the drop. So all I'm going to do simply is move all the elements across like this, and then we're going to have this first 16 bars of the drop. But now we need to add a little bit of variation in these parts here, just to keep the track moving and keeping it interesting. What I'm going to do first is just extend this vocal here and look for something that sounds cool.
I hear the water.
I mean, that sounds pretty cool itself, so let's grab that. And we're just going to slot this in at the end of the section here.
I hear the water.
Let's put this across, so something like there, halfway between the beat.
I hear the water.
Like that. Keep the birds in consistent, so it covers the whole bar. And then let's make this bit a bit more interesting. So what I normally do is, this is where the project gets a little bit more messy. I'll just like cut this out and drag this across. Let's keep the respace bit. Just keep the respace there. And then we'll just make this into a unique clip. So I had this little idea in my head that it goes bum, bum, bum. Like this. And then the bass does the same. And then we automate some reverb. So let's try it. Let's get rid of that. So we'll put a little Valhalla Room on here. So let's just listen to it. Yeah, so that sounds a bit crazy. So let's automate this mix. So let's just grab this section, click the mix, click tools, last tweaked, create automation clip. And then let's create the automation clip. And then let's make it louder.
I hear the water.
Maybe we can change this kick drum slightly.
I hear the water.
Maybe just keep the kick drum the same.
I hear the water.
Maybe we could add another like this.
I hear the water.
So we've got this playing. Maybe let's just make this unique and just... Maybe we can make this a bit louder because it's a bit quiet in the background at the moment. Let's see how this sounds.
I hear the water.
Maybe the kick drum playing this many times doesn't sound right.
I hear the water. I hear the water. I hear the water.
And maybe it's the respace itself. This respace isn't working at all. I've just experimented with a few ideas, different respaces, and it didn't work. So let's try something else. Maybe like a break instead, like a drum break. And let's try some of these breaks. So we'll put it in the extra slot. And then we'll adjust it to 175. And then let's just turn it down. Let's grab the end bit.
I hear the water.
Maybe grab.
I hear the water.
I have to chop it up a little bit.
I hear the water.
Grab a different one instead.
I hear the water. I hear the water.
Maybe get the kick drum to support it.
I hear the water. I hear the water.
I'm not sold on that, so let's go.
I hear the water. I hear the water.
Something like that sounds cool.
I hear the water.
Maybe we can like boost the low end a bit.
I hear the water. I hear the water. I hear the water.
Yeah, that sounds good. So let's listen to that just to make sure.
I hear the water.
And maybe what we can do with this vocal, we can put it in a new section. Just click yes to this. Copy this across. Maybe we can add some more to it. Maybe some other types of plugins that change the sound of it. There's this cool little plugin called Little Alter Boy that changes the pitch and formant of the vocal a little bit. So I could just do this a little bit, maybe turn the drive up.
I hear the water.
And then we can just turn the...
I hear the water.
It kind of just layers it a little bit.
I hear the water.
We can turn this down to here and then add a snare here instead, and then we get a little bit of silence.
I hear the water.
Turn this down a tad. So for the second 16 bars, initially what I thought I was going to do was a bigger transition. But I did test that and it didn't really work, so I'm just going to keep it similar and add some variation. So I'm going to do the same with the kick drum, do the same with the breaks and the drums, like this. And then I'm going to add in a new vocal. So this is just carried on.
I hear the birds.
And then what I'm going to do is vary this bit. So bum, ba ba bum. Maybe something like this.
I hear the birds.
Maybe like this instead.
I hear the birds. I hear the birds. I hear the birds.
Trying to figure out which sounds better. Sounds a bit out of key there. Yeah, let's keep it like that for now. And then we've got the first section of the drop complete. Okay, so I've just gone back into the project and I've added some sidechain to the two instruments here and here, as you can see. Just the same process, just before I felt like it needed a little bit of it. And now what I'm going to do is do the variation on the drop. So another 16 bars. Before I do that though, there was one thing I want to change. So I'm actually going to extend this back to how it was and get rid of that snare there because I thought it sounded a bit better the other way upon re-listening. So now let's grab all of this move it across. And then let's add some variations. So we're just going to click this, make unique. And what we could do is either we could maybe keep these the same or change them. We'll decide on that later. So now let's look at how we can change this up slightly. So maybe we could change.
I hear the birds.
Yeah, something like that's pretty cool. And then we'll do the same with the sub.
I hear the birds.
And the same again here. Maybe not there, maybe do it just one less because it's already kind of doing a lot in that section. So yeah, just keep it like here. Yeah, that's probably pretty cool. It's just going to be very subtle. Now we need to add some effects into the drop. We can do this by copy and pasting some of these across, like the sweeps, for example. So we can add these in here.
I hear the birds.
And we could add maybe one of these sweeps as well. Maybe not that one. Actually, let's not add any of them. So this is where we want to start using some one-shot effects to keep it interesting. Now, since we're using some like martial arts style vocal, I think it would be appropriate to add some kind of sword effect or some punching effects.
Here.
So this is kind of sounds like a sword in a way.
Here.
So let's see what we can do. Can we add a bit of reverb to it maybe? Maybe we could add some like hua, ha, 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 ha. So let's fighting. Let's search fighting on Splice. Maybe we could add this hiya. And then maybe let's pitch it down a bit. And drag it as well. Just trying to figure where this can go. Boom, hiya. So instead of the hi, maybe we could just have the ya. So we'll add this one here, and then we'll add like a punch effect. See if we can find a punch. And maybe turn this down 3 as well. And make it really like short and snappy. Yeah, something like that, just like in the background. Can't really hear them that much, but it's like having an effect. And then maybe we could put this sword effect here. Put this effect here maybe.
I hear the
So it'll be like this. And then like this. And then like this. And then we'll just duplicate these across like this. And then maybe we can add some more in later on when we do the final touches. But this is a good start. Now we have a full 32 bar drop and a 24 bar intro and build. Now a lot of drum and bass songs like to double up their drops so they're 64 bars long. In this circumstance we're going to keep to the short vibe and just duplicate everything and then make a new second drop. But before we do that, I need to see if there's any final changes I want to make to anything before I then duplicate it. I think the build-up needs a little bit more added to it. So I'm going to add a riser. And I think this one is the best for it. And then again, let's adjust it 178. And you can see that it's actually double the length. So what I'm going to do is click this button here, which is the stretch tool. Then I'm going to stretch it halfway. So we get the full effect of the increase in pitch over time. And then I'm just going to put this right down.
Close your eyes.
And then in the pack, there's this really cool snare fill here. Jump Up Snare Fill 4. So I'm going to add this in. I'm just going to use the percussion section here because that's the only space I've really got. Actually, I might use the clap section just in case we had more percussion later. I'm going to put it here. Oh, just change this to step mode and put it here. And obviously we're going to turn that right down. I'm just going to duplicate.
I hear the water.
So I've noticed that these hi-hats here are quite loud, and the hi-hats overall for these are quite loud. What I might do is just turn these down on here and remove those ones I just removed.
Is the only darkness.
Yeah, that sounds much better now. They're a bit quieter. Let's just check in the drop as well. Yeah, it sounds better in the drop as well. One more thing I want to try is I'm just going to put an endless smile on the master. See if we can get a bit more movement in the build-up. And then go to last tweaked. Create automation clip. And then it's going to come here. We'll just leave it in here. And then we'll put it up to like 20% or something like that. Just right click there. And then right click. Change that. Step mode, right click here, and there we go.
Close your eyes. What do you hear?
There we go. Now let's copy everything across. I haven't decided how long I want the breakdown to be. I'm thinking of maybe taking the drums out just to allow the track to breathe a little bit. So let's just line it up properly.
I hear the birds.
I kind of like it with the drums still in. Maybe we'll just have to have a full drums tune. I normally try and let the track breathe at some point, but I feel like if I automate this back in instead, it'll sound pretty good. So I can just grab this and automate it back in.
I hear the birds.
So let's add some risers and stuff in. See which ones work.
I hear the birds.
Not that one. So we'll use the same ones as for the down filters. Maybe get this one in as well.
I hear the birds. I hear the birds. I hear the birds.
Maybe we could like automate this a little bit. Put a filter on it.
I hear the birds.
Maybe not too much, maybe just a tiny bit.
I hear the birds. I hear the birds.
I'm going to add another riser in here as well because it sounds a bit empty without another riser in. So let's just grab another riser. Let's grab this one, see what this sounds like. So now we don't really need to change anything with the build. We can kind of just leave this as it is now. And then what we want to do is add variation to the drop. So normally what I do is I like do some sort of fake out with the drums or just vary the bass. Let's make a unique pattern and then let's just play around with some ideas. Get rid of that. Change the sub bass around as well.
Here. Here. Here.
Let's copy this across as well. Then we're going to copy bars 1 and 2 to 5 and 6. So copy and copy. So we'll just delete all this and then drag all this across like this. Same with all this. And same with all this.
What do you hear?
I hear the water.
And then we can do the same here. And then let's add some variation in this part here. Grab the bass. We could do something similar to what we did before. Copy it with the sub bass. And again. And again.
I hear the water.
So the track in itself is 2.5 minutes long. So that's pretty good for modern day drum and bass length. So now we've got draft 1 done of the track and I'm pretty happy with how it's sounding. What I do now is put this in my whips folder and leave it for a few days and then come back to it and see if I still like how it's sounding, if there's any small changes I'd make. And then I'd move it into my finished folder and that'll be that. The track will be done. Move on to the next one. But let's just master it before. So let's go to the loudest part, which should be the drop. And let's get span open.
What do you hear?
Let's also get U-lean loudness meter, which both U-lean and span are both free. So you can see it's coming in at -13 lufs here. So normally what I try and do is I get it up to around -7. Now if you want to really easily master, you can literally just get a Pro L and boost the frequencies. Because if you hear how my track sounds at the moment, it's like pretty much perfectly already mixed down. So there's not much that I need to do, and often I'll literally just put this on, turn it up, and the master will be done. And you just got to listen out for any clipping. Now I'm going to show you another way to master, which is using the FL plugins. So I just normally drag and drop a master I already have ready, but I can't save it onto this one because we've got Endless Smile. So what I'm going to do is put it on channel 70 and grab my master. And my master is really simple. It's just an EQ taking out the hertz here, and you can just use the preset buttons here for this. And another EQ just boosting and reducing certain frequencies. So the muddiness here, boosting some of the highs. And then we've got a patcher, which separates the low end into mono and the mid to high range into stereo, just to make sure any of your low end is in mono and stop any like weird stereo sounds going into the low end. And then we've got this Maximus, which just acts as a limiter, so we can boost the gain here to get loudness. So let's just copy these over one by one. And this is going to come in really loud because we did actually mix down louder than I normally do because of that side chain. So I'm going to bring this right down. So normally what I do is I boost it more to like this kind of level. And then we start to get in the -7 lufs range, but because the kick drum is going absolutely crazy, I'm going to leave it at this level. So what I'll probably do is I'll leave it at the loudest it can possibly go before that kick drum starts distorting, export the track, put it on record box, and then test it against some other already mastered tracks by some like well-known artists, and see how it holds up against the volume of theirs. And if it's like nowhere near as loud, I'll come back in and I'll have to work more on this kick drum and getting the kick drum to work with the increase in volume, either by turning the kick drum down on the mix itself, but then I have to look into that sidechain issue, or by replacing the kick with another kick, and maybe that'll help tweak it. But that's pretty self-explanatory. It's just experimenting with different sounds to get the loudness up even more. I don't think I really need to show you that. So that is the track complete, or at least the initial draft of the track. Came back to listen to it and I realized the build-up sounded a little bit empty. So what I've done is I've found more of the vocal and filled the entire build with vocal. And you'll hear what this sounds like when we go through the final version. Now another thing I do is when the track is finished, I normally listen through it on repeat, and then the time I listen to it on repeat and make no changes is the time when it's done. So I just heard here that these risers are coming in a little bit early. So what I'll do is I will go onto here and add a love filter, turn this down, and then I'll just right click, create automation clip. And what I'll do is I'll make them really quiet here and have them coming in like later on, like here for example. Maybe just get rid of that section there. So like that. And then it was the same for this riser here as well. So we'll do the same here. Grab this one. Love filter. Turn it up, turn it down. Boom. And then what I normally do is I'll start the track from the beginning again and re-listen. And I'll keep doing that until I'm happy. Just make sure to copy these across to the second drop. And we can also copy this across as well. Also, we forgot to do the very end, and I think it sounds pretty good as it is, so I could just do this.
I hear the birds.
And we could maybe even filter the drums off. So we got this here, just copy this across, make unique, and filter the drums off like this. Something like that. And then the track ends with that little bit of reverb.
I hear the birds.
Just turn that off as well.
I hear the birds.
Nice. I appreciate this as being a really long video, so let me know in the comments if you like this style, if it's too long. Let's listen to how the track sounds.
You are the new student. Take your broom and strike me with it. Never assume that because a man has no eyes, he cannot see. Close your eyes. What do you hear?
I hear the water. I hear the birds. I hear the water. I hear the birds.
And then let's just hear the second drop as well.
Close your eyes. What do you hear?
I hear the water. I hear the birds.
And that's the track complete. Let me know in the comments what kind of tunes you make from this. I'd be really interested to hear. And if you want the Jump Up DNB sample pack that I've used for most of this track, there is a link down below. It's just on my website. Really easy to find and download. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.